Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasyatya Deshatarine Namaste Saraswati Deve. 「 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Lakshmi Nrsimha, Jaya Lakshmi Nrsimha, Lakshmi Nrsimha, Jaya Lakshmi Nrsimha. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Nrsimhadev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatya Rishatari Om Agyanati Marandasya Gyananjana Shalakayam Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Okay, so welcome everybody to this evening Bhagavad Gita lecture. So today we are reading from chapter 9 called The Most Confidential Knowledge and verse number 2. It's a very, very beautiful verse. So I will just quickly read the Sanskrit Raja Vidya Rajaguyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyaksha Svagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartumavyayam. So here is the translation and purport of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. So now the purport is very, very long, so I will just read like probably a page and a half, or we'll see. And then I will just summarize the main points so we can discuss them together. This chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called the King of Education because it's the essence of all doctrines and philosophies explained before. There are 7 principal philosophers in India: Gautama, Kanada, Kapila, Yagyavalkya, Sandila, Vaishvanar, and finally Vyasadeva, the author of Vedanta Sutra. So there is no depth of knowledge in the field of philosophy or transcendental knowledge. Now, the Lord says that this 9th chapter is the king of all such knowledge, the essence of all knowledge that can be derived from the study of the Vedas and different kinds of philosophy. It is the most confidential because confidential or transcendental knowledge, it involves understanding the difference between the soul and the body. And the king of all confidential knowledge culminates in devotional service. Generally, people are not educated in this confidential knowledge. Narasimhadev Bhagavan Ki Jai. They are educated in external knowledge. As far as ordinary education is concerned, people are involved with so many departments: politics, sociology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, astronomy, engineering. There are so many departments of knowledge all over the world and many huge universities, but there is unfortunately no university or educational institution where the science of the spirit soul is instructed. Yet the soul is the most important part of this body. Without the presence of the soul, the body has no value. Still, people are placing great stress on the bodily necessities of life, not caring for the vital soul. The Bhagavad Gita, especially from the 2nd chapter on, stresses the importance of the soul. In the very beginning, the Lord says that this body is perishable and that the soul is not perishable. That is a confidential part of knowledge. Simply knowing that spirit soul is different from this body and that its nature is immutable, indestructible, and eternal. But that gives no positive information about the soul. Sometimes people are under the impression that the soul is different from the body and that when the body is finished or one is liberated from the body, the soul remains in a void and becomes impersonal. But actually that is not the fact. How can the soul, which is so active within this body, be inactive after being liberated from the body? It is always active. If it is eternal, then it is eternally active. And its activities in the spiritual kingdom are the most confidential part of spiritual knowledge. These activities of the spirit soul are therefore indicated here as constituting the king of all knowledge, the most confidential part of all knowledge. So I will stop here. It's a super long purport. So we have 3 more pages. But I have a little bit summarized the main points. So first of all, I would like to ask for the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas so I can say something meaningful to you that you can grow and move forward in your spiritual life. And may I be purified in performing this duty, this service, for your pleasure and for the pleasure of Narasimhadev. It is very beautiful verse. It reminded me so much of the time when I was in Mayapur doing Bhakti Shastri, because this was one of the verses we were learning. And there are so many incredible points. Excuse me. So I have here a little bit. But so what I wanted to speak about is a little bit of the Sanskrit of the verse. It's really beautiful how the essence of all knowledge is summarized in this 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. It's really special opportunity, first of all, that we have the Bhagavad Gita with us. And the name also of this chapter, The Most Confidential Knowledge, made me think, like, usually when we keep something like very confidential to ourselves, we would never share it with somebody else. And so it's very special how the Lord is so kind that is directly sharing with us the most confidential instructions. And so it started, Srila Prabhupada, also in the first verse of this chapter, spoke also about how important, like this main subject of understanding the Vedas. So understanding the first and primemost instruction is to understand what is the difference between the soul and the body. And this is one of the main instructions that Srila Prabhupada, especially in 1968 and throughout his preaching in the West, is emphasizing that we are not this body, we are not this body. But what are we? How much, how deep is just this instruction that Prabhupada is giving us? And it's mind-blowing how deep this instruction is. Sometimes I think, like, if I would be able to just apply one instruction from Srila Prabhupada, like, about regarding anything that he says, if you could just apply, like, one instruction in my life, like, I will be very fulfilled, because every little instruction is really impregnated with a lot of spiritual blessings. So this is the ultimate, this is the king of all confidential knowledge. Pavitram is the purest. And so also says pratyaksha svagamam dharmyam. So pratyaksha means directly experience. So there are three ways on which one learn to understand the truth. Is pratyaksha, so by direct experience, is shabda praman, so is by hearing from authorities such as the Vedas or gurus or teachers. And then Hanumana is by experimental knowledge, so one experiments with different kinds of activities and then comes to the conclusion. But what Srila Prabhupada also speaks in his lectures, especially in 1968, that the knowledge that we value the most is from Shabda Praman. That means that from hearing from the Vedas. But actually in this verse, it's very interesting that he's speaking about pratyaksha. So Krishna is emphasizing how much this knowledge, it gives us direct perception. And is that made me think also, like, what is this direct perception that I have from practicing Krishna consciousness? And is very much individual. Everybody, all of us have different experiences. But also in this purport, Srila Prabhupada writes about the story of Narada Muni, because Narada Muni in his previous life, he was born as a boy, as a son of this woman, and she was fully engaged in serving great sages. She was every year during the Chaturmasya period, where the rain would come, many Bhaktivedantis, so many great sages, would gather in this holy place, and she would just be, for 4 months every year, serve these great sages. And And Narada Muni was born from this woman that I could not somehow find her name. She was a mother in the way how she didn't have actually much time for raising her child. And we know Narada Muni is absolutely a great sage. And we also know that the most important years of one's life are the first years of life. So for his first years, growing up in this way, he was able to meet many great sages that would come to this ashram and be able to serve them. He would constantly see his mother serving them, and then he would also happen to serve them, help his mother cooking, and help her serving many ways, these sages, and hearing from them. And it happened also that by some mercy, he got some leftovers from the plates of these sages. And from this leftover, he was able to even better take the mercy, take the prasad, take the mercy of the devotees. And it is said that in that moment, when he actually got the mercy, he became very fixed in transcendental knowledge. He became very fixed in pursuing transcendental knowledge. There was nothing else that he wanted. And so that made me think. And Prabhupada also stresses the fact that we are not devotees because somehow we are great personalities. I mean, I'm definitely not, and most of the people in this world, as also the Bhagavad Gita says, to have a soul that is so pure and is liberated, it's very rare that comes to this world. So the majority, we are conditioned, and it's very difficult to be so determined in spiritual life. So if we actually think that, we can do it ourselves, that's a very big illusion according to Srila Prabhupada. So what he's emphasizing is that there has been a moment into our life, as there has been a moment into the life of Narada Muni, where he received this mercy. And in that moment, he was focused on pursuing the higher goal of life. And I was thinking of myself, when did I actually start? When actually these desires in my heart grew that I wanted to pursue bhakti, I wanted to develop devotional love, devotional service, perform devotional service to the Lord. And thinking about it, I can really remember like how every time I met a devotee, or a devotee came to me with something. It could have been a book, it could have been some prasad. Every time I remember how much my consciousness switched and I made some progress. I decided to go to India, I decided to dive deeper into it. So for how much we can endeavor like to really progress in our spiritual life, actually the only way to do it is to really act in such a way that we become candidates to receive the mercy of Krishna, mercy from the devotees. And I can see many times I'm going through a hard time, and for some reason, at some point I just feel better. I just feel like I was like suffering, and then at some point I'm like, oh, I am like fine. And most of the time, we could say all the time, it's always the Lord that is helping us to remove these anarthas, but actually was prayers from other devotees. So it's really powerful, the prayers and the blessings that we receive from senior devotees, but most of all is very powerful to be a well-wisher also for others, because it's very important to develop this mood of I am the servant of Krishna's devotees. I am the servant. I am not this body. I am a channel, so I can be of service to others. And this beautiful verse, Trinada pi sunichana, tarora pi saishnuna, amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. This is the essence of actually all this confidential knowledge, because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually, he brought even more the most confidential out of the most confidential. And most of the instructions, especially for Kali Yuga, that we receive from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are from his dealing with other devotees. And we get inspired by how did Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu deal with other devotees and what was the culture of bhakti. Because honestly saying, I remember also when I first joined, and thinking deeply about it, I realized actually what made me move forward was not like how much time I spent reading or how much time how many austerities I was doing also, like controlling. I was practicing a lot of yoga, like very much a lot at that time. And I would like really try to focus on the chanting, like without moving even an inch of my body and trying to like completely focus myself. But ultimately, it's so beautiful when I look back and it's like, who cares about how much austerities I'm doing? Like the pillar stones of my moving forward, going deeper in my spiritual life, were blessings from devotees, were moments where I could really please a senior devotee, a devotee that actually carry within his heart or her heart this love and this compassion for every soul. One time, Srila Prabhupada even gave the definition of Krishna consciousness. And he said, Krishna consciousness means to feel the suffering of others and so become a Vaishnava and try to relieve others from their sufferings. But we need to first feel the suffering of understand actually these people, where are they? We were also there, most of us. We were also in that stage of confusion and of trying to fix our life just by trying to climb a glass wall. But it's really difficult. It's really, really difficult without understanding the most confidential knowledge, that is, we receive the mercy through the devotees. And the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita actually speaks a lot about we are not this body and what are the qualities of the soul. But the main, and then Prabhupada said, we understand what is the soul, what is the body, and the culmination of this understanding is devotional service. So the devotional service is the way how we try to understand the soul and the body, and is the culmination of this understanding. So it's very beautiful how the process is actually the goal, and this you don't find in any other tradition, especially in the Mayavadi tradition. Also Prabhupada speaks about it a lot, because there is the idea also in this materialistic mentality that you do something and when you reach the goal, you give it up. So we can say Mayavadi, but this is also very much a materialistic conception, to give up something once you reach the destination. And it's really not a nice feeling. Like, you can think about your life, the moments you endeavored so much to reach a goal, and then it was very frustrating even to achieve it itself, because there was no joy, there was no heart involved in that. But when the heart is involved, then actually we can understand that the very process itself, we don't need to wait one day to reach a specific goal. We can already right now give our heart to God. And by giving our heart to God today, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, that actually increasing those moments where we are opening our heart to Krishna, then these moments will actually become eternal. So the more we practice this in this present moment, right now, just connecting with Krishna in our heart, that's actually the goal of life, like to always stay in that center and connected. And that's why prayers are very powerful, because they create our path. It's very, one of the practice that I do a lot is before chanting, before service is, whatever I do, whatever happens today, please let that bring me closer to you. Like the Ganges flows to the ocean, let me be carried by His pure water so that I can reach the ultimate destination, not for my own ego. And I know I have so many impediments in my heart, so many desires and so many anarthas, but let my actions today be a drop in that water that can bring me closer to you. So intentions are very powerful, especially in my life. And there is a long way when we think about coming closer to Krishna. It's something that it's really feels very far away. But like I said, the process is actually the goal. So you can think about your life and think of how can I make my life in such a way that I can already experience taste for the little services I'm doing right now. Because it will not come a day that you will actually feel satisfied in your heart if you don't already look for it right now. Prayers are not made of hope, they're made of intentions. We can't build our life on hope or just on belief that, one day Krishna will descend, or, it's very, also very much practical. It's every day checking on ourselves and understanding where am I going, how much the noise of my mind is loud compared to the stillness of my heart. And in that way, surrender, letting go all these material, these responsibilities that we take that they don't really have any deeper meaning, but they're very much superficial. So these are a little bit of points that I made. There is a lot, actually. So much more, but I feel like from this main verse, also Srila Prabhupada, the last thing actually said in this purport is he reports the purport, saying, thus the process of devotional service of Krishna consciousness is the king of all education and the king of all confidential knowledge. It is the purest form of religion, and it can be executed joyfully without difficulty. Therefore, one should adopt it. So in this mood, he was preaching very much to the people at that time. And he was saying there is no place in this world that have spiritual education. But in the years, I'm so grateful. I had the opportunity to study in Mayapur, and there are so many wonderful courses here in Simachalam, in so many places. So Srila Prabhupada, in his words, also was setting a lot of intentions for this movement to grow deeper, to grow authentically, to be individuals that actually can be engaged. Each of us can be uniquely engaged in his service. So we should always be open to research the amazing ways of how Krishna wants us to be, to best engage our heart in service for him. So, yes, so I think that is the main points I wanted to make. Does anybody would like to share something from this verse or some understanding? Yes?
I have a question. We talked about intention. What is the right intention for devotional service, and how to set this intention in the heart?
That's a beautiful question. The right intention for devotional service. It is really, it requires introspections. There is not like a one way, ultimately the right intention is Trinada Pisunichana, like make me an instrument of humility, of tolerance, so I can move forward. At the same time, we don't want to just like adopt a prayer and just adopt something like that, but we want to really understand what is going on in my heart, where is my understanding right now, where am I at right now, so that I can really offer a prayer that is really connected with what I need. And the best is always by guidance. sometimes senior devotees, they can really see us with our shortcomings and really understand what is that we need, even though we may think we know better. So choosing at least one person in your life, and that's the, like, my personal wish, and the wish to all of you, that you have at least one person that you can fully open your heart and reveal yourself, because that person that you will trust and that you will also take as an inspiration will guide you through the right direction. So it's really about vulnerability, like really understanding where you're at, and then with the intention to actually please Krishna. So bhakti is ultimately, whatever happens, whatever we do, may be a pleasure for Krishna and his devotees. So this is my little insignificant understanding, but yeah, thank you so much. It's a very beautiful question. Like to share something? Okay, thank you so much, everyone. I'm very grateful that I could be here with all of you, speaking a few words from the beautiful text of Bhagavad Gita, and have a wonderful Krishna conscious evening and a good night. Haribol. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
It's very dry.
With Prabhupada.